r/AskReddit by Redmond ETS. What's something weird a guest did in your home, and you didn't know how to react? Ash their cigarette on the floor, then get really mad when we ask them not to do it again. Friend of mine had his buddy house sit for his family, and the buddy set up all the Christmas decorations in summer. Walked into the kitchen, turned the tap on, farted very loudly, turned the tap off, and walked back out like we didn't see or hear him let rip. My aunt, uncle, and my cousins took a vacation out to my area once, and we invited them over for dinner. I haven't seen them in years, so I don't know my cousins very well. One of my cousins upon entering our home immediately started quietly walking into every room in the house, and started opening up closets, dresser drawers and cabinets. There wasn't anything he could stumble upon that was embarrassing or valuable, and we didn't want to make a scene, so we just kinda let him have the run of the house. My aunt and uncle acted like this was just a normal thing. Later on I called my mom and asked about that and she said, "Oh yeah, the kid is super weird. We have to lock all of our bedroom doors when he comes over. He tends to just riffle through people's personal lives. He doesn't take anything, he just likes to snoop. People are strange." Edit. He's 15 years old. He's not autistic, but his brother is. According to my parents he isn't autistic, just a weird teenager. I spent the weekend with him and didn't find any indication that he was autistic either. Let their child get red sauce all over my furniture, then turn and tell me that 1. I shouldn't have had red sauce pasta as an option for dinner at my home, and 2. They saved me because my child was going to ruin my furniture at some point anyways. I was pregnant at the time. I had an extra tix for a chef-hosted pop-up dinner. Prefix menu, cocktails and wine included. Called a buddy that's a chef knowing he'd appreciate it. We started hitting the drinks hard, but he was lapping me and he got very drunk. We went to 2 bars after, neither would serve his drunk ass, so I said let's walk to my house, sleep it off. Had a few at the house and I went to bed. Woke in the morning and he was gone but left a kind note on the counter. Found another note in the coffee maker, and another in the cups. We were finding notes of love and gratitude hidden all over the house 4 weeks after. It was really sweet. There was this guy my husband and I had met once before. We invited him over to watch a movie with us. We were new to the city, trying to make friends. He said he'd bring pizza. He brought a half-eaten pizza. He asked to use our laptop, was on Facebook the whole time, and proceeded to fall asleep in our living room recliner during the movie. It was an odd encounter. When I have parties I always extend the invitation to include sleeping over since people tend to be drinking, and I've had a few friends who lived 1-2 hours away who would come stay over as well. Had one guy who came to several of my parties. He lived over an hour away, so it was expected that he would be staying the night. But he always ended up going to bed at like 9 PM, after the party had barely started. I never understood why he was coming to my parties, just to sleep in my guest room and not actually be social. Cause it's just a nice little vacation. Why don't adults have sleepovers? They're fun. Had a colleague turn up 2 hours early for a party once. Brought his whole family. I didn't know this guy that well but had basically opened the invitation to anyone at work who wanted to pop round. His kids didn't play with mine and his wife barely spoke. Nothing was ready and there was no food and I hadn't even showered and got ready yet. When the designated time for the party came around and other guests started arriving, they left. I've never invited them around since and the rest of the party had a good old chuckle about it when I explained what had happened. My college friend came down to my dorm room sobbing because she couldn't stop sucking dong, and then proceeded to eat my roommate's mac and cheese out of a pot while crying between spoonfuls. I was speechless. Invited a guy over for game night. Start time was 7 PM or 7:30. He shows up at 6 PM. I have a long driveway. He parks in the center. I have to have him move for other guests of course. He comes in the house and I try to gain insight into why he's here so early. He says can't predict traffic and better to be early. He helps himself to a Coke without asking. then asks me what streaming services I have. He then puts on Star Wars: The Clone Wars animated series and starts watching. He then asks for a snack, so I get him one. When everyone else arrives, he whips out his own homemade card game. We play the game until 9 PM on the dot, at which point he promptly stands up, proclaims he has to leave and does. Takes his game with him too, of course. I still haven't recovered from this. Was it a fun game? No. We only played until 9 because we could not reach the end of the game in 1.5–2 hours time. I had a friend take an hour-long dump in my bathroom once. When he came out, finally, I asked if he was okay. He sheepishly said, "Yeah, sorry. I had some cleaning up to do." When I asked what that meant, he said, "Well, I went in to just pee but then decided to try to squeeze out a fart but shat all over your wall. I've spent the last hour cleaning the crap off of the stucco." Why were his pants down to take a piss? Lol. I had a friend that couldn't crap unless he was completely naked, clothes in a semicircle around his feet. I was getting ready to leave for work. My husband had already left for work, and my husband's friend who spent the night was still there. We don't really like people being in our house when we aren't there. Not that we are distrustful, it's just weird to us if someone is gonna be at our house for 8+ hours doing whatever. So I grab my car keys and say, "Alright, time for us to leave." And he just says, "Okay, bye," and starts rolling a joint with my weed. I wait till he's done, take it from him and say thanks, while putting it behind my ear and holding the door open for him. "After you, see you later." Apparently this was offensive enough that he called my husband to tell on me. My husband obviously was like, my guy, she bought that with her own money and told you to leave. So, leave." A drunk person I didn't know once walked in my front door, went straight to my bathroom and then immediately passed out on the floor. Our friend had his auntie over from somewhere, and we invited them over for some drinks. The auntie started rubbing my leg under the table. I just sat there talking, trying to ignore it. My wife went to the bedroom to do something and our friend followed her, making a move. It was literally like they had it planned all along. Hence to say, we never had anything to do with them ever again after that. Wait, your friend and his aunt attempted to pick up your wife and you at the same time? His biological aunt? Yep. When my mom remarried, we had a small ceremony in our house and had a small spread of food, including a honey-baked spiral cut ham that was the circumference of a dinner plate. Just huge, green beans and deviled eggs. My Aunt Rhonda, my mom's sister-in-law, ate a stack of ham easily 2 inches thick, got a second plate with the same, ate all 4 of her kids' plates. The kids didn't eat much, that had been piled high, ate 23 deviled eggs and packed up a third plate that had about 3 inches worth of ham slices. We just kind of sat back in amazement. God, this is probably going to get buried, but at some point before I was born my dad ran a recording studio type thing in our basement. Think an old soundboard, mix, instruments, that sort of stuff all set up. My parents were away and his friend stayed at the house to look after things and feed our dog. She was a pretty crazy, then maybe 4-year-old, German Shepherd. When my parents got back, nothing was out of place or anything. But months later my dad was on the computer in the basement and found a fully composed song that his friend recorded in his absence. Full singing and instrumentals, about the dog. I was so young when I heard the song, so I really don't remember any more details than that, and the file itself has been lost to time, but it's still a pretty iconic story. Brought their dog without notice, and expected us to get rid of our cats out of courtesy for their dog, who hates cats and wants to murder them literally. Also went through our house to sneak a peek at the rooms, and went through our drawers and closet too. Like, what the fudge? I don't care for you to wanna look at the house, just don't be rude. I have quite the in-laws. I once had a guest throw out a log of their crap wrapped in a garbage bag in my garbage can in the bathroom. I never said anything about it. I just emptied out the trash and sat down for a moment to try to process why someone would do such a thing. I told a friend of a friend about it and they too were puzzled by it. I walked in on my friend jerking off in my bathroom. and he didn't stop. We threw a party in college and a bunch of people ended up coming that we did not know. It ended up getting super crowded and was becoming an issue. I glanced over and watched a guy ash his blunt on our living room carpet. We made everyone leave right after that, and while people were waiting in the cul-de-sac for a ride, someone stabbed someone. It was so crazy. The cops came up to our door and we said we seriously do not know any of these people. They showed up. A family friend was staying at my house for the week. At the end of the week, my desktop was working real slow. After a brief look through the history, I noticed two things. The amount of cartoon stuff both viewed and downloaded was ridiculous. I didn't know how to react in the moment, but on the drive to his home, I had to let him know that he was definitely banned from using my desktop after that. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.